Keir Starmer report sparks fury on Good Morning Britain as fans rage out of touch. Sir Keir Starmer sparked anger with fans of Good Morning Britain as hosts Susanna Reid and Ed Balls discussed his latest comments. Fans of Good Morning Britain were fuming after the latest report on Sir Keir Starmer aired on the ITV breakfast show. Susanna Reid and Ed Balls were at the helm of the programme on Tuesday morning as they shared that the UK Prime Minister has condemned pro-Palestine protests planned for today to mark the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks and has called them un-British. Starmer also repeated his calls for a two-state solution, the release of the remaining hostages, and for more aid to be allowed into Gaza and, writing in the Times, also said that the UK is indifferent about anti-Semitism. But fans of GMB hit back at the PM's comments as they branded him out of touch. Chief correspondent Richard Gaisford explained that the Prime Minister had said that they do not want to stop people's rights to protest but must ensure they do not keep brooding hate and division, and those who call for violence against Jews must face the full force of the law. There are a number of pro-Palestinian protests planned for today in London and other university cities around the country, with Starmer said to be concerned that they will turn into hate marches. In his column, Starmer wrote, "This is not who we are as a country." He added, "It's un-British to have so little respect for others." And that's before some of them decide to start chanting hatred towards Jewish people all over again. However, many fans of Good Morning Britain disagreed with Starmer's views. On X/Twitter, one fan wrote, "Starmer is so out of touch, so ineffective as a prime minister that it's embarrassing. Another 4 years of this and the country will be beyond salvation." Another fumed, "Is that the best Starmer can come out with? Un-British. What an absolute plonker of a prime minister. Ban the marches for God's sake or do something a bit more proactive than sitting on your hands." One more said, "If this is un-British, then so was every anti-apartheid, anti-war, and civil rights march we've ever had. Jog on," while someone else added, "It's not un-British to protest about genocide." The morning sun rose over the ITV studios with its usual golden glow, but the mood inside Good Morning Britain was anything but serene. What started as another routine broadcast quickly descended into a storm of public outrage, as the show's segment on Keir Starmer's latest report sent viewers into a frenzy. By 8 a.m., social media was ablaze. Hashtags like #OutOfTouchStarmer and #GMBFury were trending, as fans unleashed a torrent of frustration that no one on the GMB set could have foreseen. The day's topic was meant to be a calm political analysis. The Labour leader had released a new report outlining his vision for Britain's fairer future, a blueprint that promised reforms in education, housing, and healthcare. But as Susanna Reid and Ed Balls delved into the finer points, what emerged was less about policy and more about perception. The growing chasm between Starmer's promises and the everyday struggles of the British people. A morning of unease. It began quietly enough. The show's opening headlines mentioned Starmer's report as a significant political statement ahead of the next general election. Viewers were teased with clips of the Labour leader delivering his speech, a polished performance filled with carefully crafted lines about restoring trust and rebuilding Britain's broken institutions. But as soon as the cameras cut back to the studio, the tension became palpable. Susanna Reid, known for her incisive questioning, didn't hold back. "Keir Starmer says his report represents a new beginning," she said, her tone laced with skepticism. "But how can you talk about rebuilding trust when so many people feel unheard? Are voters really buying it?" Ed Balls nodded thoughtfully before offering a cautious defense, suggesting that the report was a step in the right direction. Yet before he could elaborate, co-host Richard Madeley interjected with a sharp remark that instantly shifted the mood. "It's all well and good promising fairness, but when people can't afford their weekly shop, words start to sound a bit hollow, don't they?" That single line set the tone for what would become one of GMB's most heated discussions in months. Viewers explode online. Within minutes, the GMB comment sections lit up like fireworks. Viewers flooded X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook with furious reactions. "Keir Starmer talking about fairness is a joke," one viewer wrote. "He's completely out of touch with real people." Another posted, "I can't believe I used to support Labour. What happened to standing up for working-class Britain?" Even the show's official GMB hashtag was hijacked by critics. Thousands of viewers accused Starmer of offering empty promises and performative compassion. Some called him a robot in a suit, while others suggested that Labour had become indistinguishable from the Tories. The sheer volume of backlash stunned producers. "We knew it would get people talking," one insider later revealed. "But we didn't expect this level of anger." The response was overwhelming. The panel grew more intense as the GMB panel dissected key points of Starmer's report. The labor leaders pledged to ensure every child has equal opportunity, drew praise from some, but others quickly questioned how such ambitions would be funded. "When politicians talk about equality," said political commentator Andrew Pierce, "they rarely talk about the cost. Who pays for all this? Where's the money coming from?" Susanna Reid, visibly frustrated, leaned forward. "We've heard the slogans, the speeches, the promises, but when it comes to delivery, people feel left behind. What are we actually seeing on the ground?" At that moment, the show played a pre-recorded interview with a single mother from Birmingham, who described how rising rents and grocery prices had left her barely surviving. As she spoke, tears welled in her eyes. "They keep saying things will get better," she said softly, "but nothing ever changes." When the camera cut back to the studio, silence hung heavy in the air. Even the usually unflappable Ed Balls seemed momentarily lost for words. The breaking point. Then came the moment that truly ignited the firestorm. A viewer poll appeared on screen. "Do you think Keir Starmer understands the struggles of ordinary Britons?" Within minutes, the results poured in. An overwhelming 82% voted no. Susanna exhaled deeply. "That's quite something," she said. "It seems the public isn't convinced." Richard Madeley, never one to resist a jab, added with a wry smile, "Maybe he needs to spend a few weeks living on minimum wage. Might give him some perspective." The remark drew nervous laughter from Ed Balls but thunderous applause online. Viewers applauded Madeley for saying what they'd long felt, that politicians were living in a bubble far removed from reality. The fallout. By the end of the broadcast, the backlash had reached fever pitch. Newspapers quickly picked up the story, running headlines like "Starmer slammed on GMB" and "Voters lose faith in Labour vision." Political analysts on rival networks began debating whether the outcry signaled a deeper problem within Labour's strategy, a disconnect that could cost them the next election. Meanwhile, inside the GMB studio, the atmosphere was electric. Producers scrambled to field calls, emails, and messages from viewers eager to have their say. "It's one of those mornings," a visibly tired Susanna quipped as the show wrapped up. "Politics never sleeps." Behind the scenes, though, some insiders worried about the broader implications. Was GMB's coverage fueling polarization, or merely reflecting it? Was the public's anger directed at Starmer himself, or the political system as a whole? The bigger picture. What made the segment so explosive wasn't just the topic, it was the emotion behind it. Viewers weren't simply critiquing policy, they were expressing something deeper. Exhaustion, frustration, and a longing for authenticity in an age of political theater. For years, Starmer has struggled to shake off the perception of being too cautious, too corporate, and too scripted. While some see him as a steady hand, others view him as a man trapped by moderation, a leader afraid to inspire real change. As one viewer put it bluntly online, "He talks like he's managing a company, not leading a country." The GMB controversy highlighted that disconnect in real time. Every sentence, every hesitation, every carefully measured phrase in Starmer's report seemed to widen the gap between promise and reality. A lesson in connection. By the next morning, GMB's clip of the segment had been viewed more than 2 million times online. Even Starmer's team reportedly watched the broadcast, aware that the optics were disastrous. Yet amid the chaos, there was also a lesson, one that stretched beyond politics. The fury that erupted wasn't just about one man or one report, it was about people feeling unseen. When Susanna Reid closed the show that morning, she left viewers with a line that echoed across social media for the rest of the day. Politics isn't just about policies. It's about people. And when people stop feeling heard, they stop believing. Those words captured the heart of the fury that had unfolded live on air. Keir Starmer's report may have been written to inspire confidence, but instead, it exposed a painful truth. Britain's faith in its leaders is wearing thin.